Hey guys, Thomas the Surgeon here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review the movie The Tomorrow War. If you end up enjoying this review, then please consider joining my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. Alright, so let's get into The Tomorrow War. So, I didn't see any trailers for this movie up until I saw it trending on Twitter. So I decided to go and give it a good old check out. So, let us recap this and review it as objectively as possible. So, the movie stars Chris Pratt as one simple man named Dan, who, 28 years later from the beginning of the movie, which we see a bunch of people fall down from a mysterious portal, and he himself lands in some water and gets ready to do some gunfire. But we cut to 28 years before. So we meet who he is, or who he was before. He has a daughter and wife. And as he's sort of just at this party, he's trying to get this new job simultaneously, but due to his lack of experience, he doesn't quite get the job due to his lack of experience, and I totally feel that one. And someone else is apparently more qualified, so he's a bit angry. However, as he returns home and sits with his daughter and wife, the TV, as they're watching TV and as they're watching sports, suddenly a mysterious portal opens and a bunch of futuristic military people come walking out. And among them, this young woman announces that a war will be coming in their future. And if they don't participate, that the future will be lost. Everything will be lost if they don't use this time travel ability to end the war. So a draft is made as we learn that they have been sending waves of people, and eventually they sent military-esque people, apparently, and they couldn't get the job done, and so a draft was made, and among them, Dan was picking. But before that, we see that he teaches at a school, or as a teacher currently, and the students that are there are all bummed out and want to give in, and one of them individually was very interested in volcanoes, which will come up way later in the movie, but yeah. So, as he's one to have been picked, he's forced with an armband, and we see that his wife currently works at a therapy session with people who have already been through it and came back injured through various means. So Dan goes to see his father, and we learn that his father had gone to war too, and, furthermore, that the father had left them to do his own stuff. So he goes to his wife and daughter to tell them the news, and the daughter eventually finds out, even though she's young, she kind of gets the drift. So, the announcement is made very shortly afterwards, where he starts to meet other individuals that are going to be with him. Charlie and Dorian are two individuals that particularly stick out. Charlie is played by the main actor from the werewolf movie I just reviewed. So that's interesting to see him getting a little bit of move around in the movie aspect. But anyways, we also see a man named Dorian who had already been a part of this and had been sent back, and he's going for it again. So he's considered a veteran in this group. But the people there seem to be of a variety of things, and people are being picked to see if they're of a medical variety or if they have any training. But things seem to be moving in a relatively quick pace. And speaking of, we learn how that they can only jump back and forth in a singular fashion, and they even put together that, according to this future timeline, that they're not going to send anyone who currently lives, quote unquote, up until a certain point. They pick people who are going to die in a very short time frame, so that apparently if you go back or go forward in the future, it wouldn't mess with the timeline, even though time travel in it of itself is just that. It is messing with the timeline. Hate to be the guy that says it, but it's true. As soon as you invent time travel, have done it, you have messed with time. That's the very premise of it, right? Is the moment you go forward or backwards, you are messing with time. So anyways, we learned that his wife didn't want this, Dan's wife, for all intents and purposes, but we also learned about Charlie's wife who had passed away. So we're getting a little bit of character, but not a crazy amount or anything of that nature. And as we are learning that this group seems to be the last line of defense. Like, this is it. This is the last group of people that they can possibly send through. They're running out of time. So they send them forward, and as they are sending them forward, they realize that their calibration is off for somehow. That was a little confusing, but then we see how we got to the beginning of the movie, where we see everyone falling through the sky. And we even see a bit more of a clear view of it this time, as more people we see just fall all the way down from the sky to the street. Including Chris Pratt's character, who lands conveniently in a pool of water, even though from where he was falling before, it looked like he was going to hit the pavement, but he sort of slid into the water in the sky, so convenience. There is a bit of convenience, and you could have probably just reshot it, but that's the shot we get, so it looks terrible. Anyway, so, as they sort of regroup and see who's left, and he sort of answers the comms to the people in the present, who are the future people anyway, that their mission is to get to a building that's relatively nearby and pick up some people that have built some sort of immunity or built something that can potentially help them discover about these creatures, about what their whole deal is, these aliens that we claim to be hearing about. And as we get there, as it's nice and quiet and we're building up a little bit of tension, which is actually pretty good for what this movie is going for, we see that the team is killed. And again, with the time crunch, we see that they're grabbing the vials, and we are learning from the opposing side, the current timeline, that the aliens are moving in. And we see their first reveal as they're in this sort of staircase moving down as the people are coming in to like help with the fire assistance. So they end up shooting upwards at these aliens, which their design is these four-legged sort of creatures with tentacles on their backs. A pretty unique design. I'm pretty sure if I had enough time I could probably think of a video game design that's a lot closer to this design in terms of a creature, but probably would take too long. Anyway, So Dan's attempting to hold them off. He's not doing a terribly good job right now. So they run off into the streets as they make their way down the stairs. And some of the members we are sitting being shot at by these pincer attacks that these creatures that can shoot outwards. So they were not prepared for what the aliens were exactly. There wasn't enough time. And in fact, there's all this talk about, oh, you couldn't tell them about it because, yeah, anyway. So even as their allies come in from the opposing side down the streetway that they're coming down, we see that the aliens have this tactical wherewithal about them as they're able to just blow the trucks asunder with little effort and just completely leave the teams abandoned. And their team is getting just overwhelmed by these aliens. Thus, the area is bizarrely bombarded with bombs. They are barely a few feet away from the explosion. So very, very cliche of the explosion happening within such a distance where in normal expectations everyone would be dead. So we already have some stakes that are a little bit too old to fancy, I would feel. I feel like you don't have to do that anymore. I feel like that cliche is just sort of, as a poor design, it kind of lowers the sort of, well, the characters are just gonna live now, right? Or at least the ones that are important. So it kind of lowers that sense of dread, that sense of tension when you have people just pretty much in explosion range being able to survive. So anyway, so as he awakens, he's in the hospital, and he's there. He sees the other two, Dorian and I forget the other guy's name, Charlie. And Dorian mentions how he had cancer, or he has cancer, and that he says that he will die in a certain period of time, and that is the main reason he is pretty much going out into this future realm, is to die the way he wants to die. Excuse me. So, speaking of messing with the timeline, the main character, Dan, meets his daughter, all grown up. So, she shows him that there is a female among all these creatures that is essentially like a queen of sorts. I think Angry Joe mentioned this in his review, that very much akin to like Alien or Aliens. Referring to it as a queen probably would have been a bit of a better reference to how this sort of group of aliens function in terms of that sort of hive mind mentality where they all follow the queen. But just saying female is a little bit, like, it sort of implies that there could be other females in that way, whereas when you say the queen, it's that singular queen, if that makes any sense. That's how Aliens, again, functions in that way. So they say that this female, or queen, is the key to this, to figuring out how to beat them, and knowing how to fight back if they can get, like, the sample and do sort of this tech-based stuff. And as they're trying to gather this queen, Dan ends up fighting an incoming swarm of aliens as they're sort of in this area that has like these pit holes, and the queen is there, and they're trying to gather her, and they're not doing a relatively good job, and it takes until him getting there for them to start acting a little bit smarter. But they get overrun, but Dan and his daughter are the ones who run the line and get out of the situation. So, as they have a moment on the beach, we have a pretty interesting moment in the movie, probably one of the stronger moments in the movie, where the daughter opens up about how he now has been the one who has left them, according to the timeline that we never really get to see. So it is sort of a show don't tell sort of moment, but it is sort of in a crux of like, yeah, but it's in between this set of periods, so I don't know. I think they could have done that a little bit better, but it's still a solid moment in terms of their acting and some of the dialogue, I would argue, but not all of it. So she goes over how he got into a divorce and how he died in the hospital and so on and so forth. So again, a pretty strong moment in the movie. So they're in the lab, him and his daughter, dealing with the Queen. I'll just refer to it as the Queen. It's a little bit easier for me because that's the way I think it's supposed to function. And they're trying to run some tests about finding a potential weakness. And as we see a little bit of a mini montage, we see her slowly getting closer and closer percentile wise, but not quite getting the 100%. And just so as it be, once they do arrive, as she arrives at the 100% mark and grabs the vial, the monster goes nuts. And of course, a bunch of creatures from the outside start moving in. Now their base is on this sort of FOB, or forward operating base, that's surrounded by water, and there are these walls. So the creatures have to go climb the walls and then go up these little island platforms to get to them. So that's how the creatures are separated. Now the creatures are swimming, they're trying to climb up, and there's a number of them, hundreds probably, most likely. And as we overhear, they needed to defend the area for 7 minutes before they can get, in particular, Dan can get sent back. And, of course, before deciding to whether or not just kill the female outright, right then and there, they decide not to do that and to leave it alive for whatever purpose. And, of course, the other creatures get in and help her out. And they move closer and closer. So they end up in another fire out. Where the daughter gets shot by a little pincer attack thing, and then but she ends up living at that moment. So he's trying to support her as they're having another moment where they're sort of on this bridge walkway area. And as Dan is running out of time, and he's been here in such a way where he believes that he can make this future a better potential future. But man, does he have the wrong idea, because he knows that it's his daughter. He's trying to do his best by her. She's the one who opened up. So, there's sort of this sort of parental sort of mindset that is messing with the whole, you went forward in time, so things wouldn't operate in the same vein, if that makes any sense. So we see that she gets snagged by the Queen, and he goes jumping toward her, but he runs out of time. He gets sent back. But he also has the vial with him. So he goes back to his wife after learning that they can't send any more people forward. Again, that was our last, we learned this earlier in the movie, that was our last opportunity to send people forward, not backwards. So he talks to his wife about, his experience and how haunting it was, how his daughter was there. He talks to Dorian, who lived through the ordeal as well. And in using his words, he convinces this guy to go with him. as, again, he sort of explains that he wanted to die on his own accord, that he's still willing to help out this Dan, who says that, they have a chance now that they're on this current timeline to potentially save the future from ever even happen, that particular future from even happening. So they learn through something, I believe the claw it was, of Dorian, that they could get something about volcanoes. So they go back to the kid. He knew all about the volcanoes, and he explores and explains all the things that deals with volcanoes in their particular area that they need to search. So Dan goes to get his dad, who we saw earlier in the movie, the one who'd separated and had issues with him, decides to go with him, Dorian, Charlie, and a few others, including the feature girl, or that we saw at the beginning of the movie, the one that makes the announcement, all head over to the snowy area in Russia. So they're looking through the snow in the current timeline, and they look for what they're trying to find, and they end up finding a ship. So they spot the ship, and they see that these creatures were supposedly a sort of weapon. Now, bizarrely, the room is set up in such a way where they make another stupid mistake. Unfortunate. There are like a row of like a semicircle row of creatures in a line that are of the creature aliens that we see in the movie. In the middle, very clearly you can tell that it's the Queen. Dan, and no one else, especially Dan, does not recognize for whatever reason that is the Queen, and that if they just stuck that one, probably all the other ones would die or something, however how that works. Instead, they go for one of the ones on one of the sides. I think they go to either the left or the right. It doesn't really matter which side, because the other side ends up popping out as well as the Queen. So they're firefighting inside the ship with the remaining creature aliens, using the vile the sex things that they were able to spread. And among the ones that are able to escape, only the Queen and two others are able to escape. But the father is able to take down like two of them, and then Charlie, who is still outside, was able to take out one of them. But while inside, they see that there are even more aliens inside, so Dorian and the future girl both insist on fighting remaining inside, and both of them get taken down within the ship. So Dan and his father decide to continue to track the female, as if that creature heads out and, makes its rounds. It will probably eventually repopulate. I'm assuming that it's a self-populating type of creature, since it seems to be the only female among them, these aliens. So as they're in the snow and trying to deal with it, the creature seems to go after one, and then Dan crashes his vehicle, his snowmobile, into the female alien Queen. And thus the two of them proceed to try to fight off the Queen at a mid-distance to close-distance range, fighting it off. Dan sticks her with something that's not quite the vial quite yet, but something else. The father tries to take it down to the below, but again, they're sort of helping each other out. Dan comes in, and this time uses the proper vial that sort of uber sinks the Queen. And we get our little moment after where the president, the one, assumedly, who told them earlier when they went to go to this mission for Russia in the first place, he was saying, how we can't do that. Everyone's at war. There's, little shots of people protesting about the war. how dangerous it would be. It would be impossible to get there. They snuck in there anyway, and the president said that, oh yeah, we sent them out there. We did that. It's our. He essentially took credit. And Chris Pratt, after the fact, talked to his daughter, celebrates his daughter with his father, and says that in this current timeline, the timeline that we are in, is the best timeline there could ever possibly be, and that was the Tomorrow War. And I will say, this movie was pretty good. Aside that there were a few time travel hiccups here and there, but that is unfortunately the tendency of a lot of future time travel movies, is that, again, the moment you travel through time, you have messed with time. That is the way I've always perceived it. I think that's the way people should always perceive time travel, is that the moment you do it, you ruined it to an extent, and the more you tend to do, the more the things affect it. But for the case of this movie, while there's some stupid mistakes here and there, I would still say, overall, I think this movie is actually pretty good. Again, not taking out the Queen when they could have had, when they were on the ship. In terms of, again, messing with time, this sort of implication about how important this timeline was when they could have gone back and, but then again, it was like their final travel point, right? So they try to put in some rules to sort of be like, no, this is the final thing we can do. If they didn't do it, the future as we have known it would have just been the timeline we see, and that's everything gets wrecked by these aliens. But due to the actions of our characters, primarily Dan, our main character, who brings the vial back and decides and discovers where these aliens exactly crash landed, to deal with it in the current timeline and have that future timeline essentially erased, where the current timeline, as he's mentioning, continues to move forward without the extent of aliens invading and pretty much ending the world. So, and again, I would say overall, pretty good. There were, again, some strong moments. The strongest moment, probably, again, the beach scene, where we get a bit of a talk. An interesting slowdown of tension, and then it rising back up. And I would say, I think this is a pretty complete movie, singular. So, I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a 6 out of 10. Again, I feel like there are a few hiccups here and there about, like, pretty simplistic stuff that they could have either re-recorded, even something as simple as Chris Pratt's landing in the water, because it does look like he would have hit the edge and then just died, to the whole Queen being it clearly in the middle and them not going for it. They probably should have just not had that middle one be the Queen, have the Queen elsewhere and have her escape elsewhere. Probably would have fixed that little hiccup. I'm trying to think of other ones that, these little nuggets that could be fixed to make this movie just that much more clean in terms of its solidarity, its solidity, in terms of it being written. Any other ones? I'm actually pretty good with the time travel stuff in this. It feels like they tried to put themselves in such a cube that, that this was it. Again, I think that's actually good writing when you do that. So props to the writer in terms of those decisions. You know, the amount of people who died, the first wave, all that sort of stuff. Really good, strong stuff. Other aspects, again, could have been worked out, kinked out, and again, I think that would have made it a clear 7 out of 10. But that is my review of The Tomorrow War, and if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One to head over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are just when you needed it, and until next time everyone, bye bye.